one of the biggest mistakes people make is to say, and when you write that article about me, and it's not a given. It's it is like, if you would like to write this about me. So I think one of the common mistakes is just thinking, and I guess the other biggest mistake is thinking that what you send in, they will absolutely print that word for word. And that's what you call an advert. And what is PR is different. And that's because the editors and the writers can, they want to do it for themselves.
What is Bubble Agency?
So we're a PR marketing and events company. We focus on the media technology area. So we look after companies and that either vendors and or services within anything to do with broadcast, film, sports, and audiovisual.
We hear a lot of terms bandied about like marketing and advertising and PR. What's the differences between them?
If you think about it as a big circle, like that is all of marketing. I think PR is specifically about public relations and press relations and working with the media, so getting articles in the press, entering awards, speaking opportunities. Marketing can be more direct, so how you market your brand, doing things like exhibitions, doing email campaigns. But PR is part of marketing, and it should be part of marketing.
And advertising?
Advertising is the same. I mean, that's where you literally say what you can say. I mean, I think, if you take out an advert, you can put whatever you want in it, whereas PR is different because it's someone else is writing it.
I know many people, especially smaller companies, turn out their own press release.
Yeah.
However, larger companies tend to work with a PR agency.
Yeah.
What's the purpose of an agency?
We take it, we've got multiple relationships, and we can take the time away from people because they often don't have time. And I feel, people leave it to the last minute, whereas we're actively doing it all the time. We're speaking to the press all the time. We know when the events are on. We know what people are talking about. We're pitching ideas. We're saving time for people, basically.
Well, why are contacts so important?
People buy off people, and relationships are so important. And, at Bubble, we've known the press for many, many years. And, it works when we're able to pitch something. But also, if something goes wrong as well, and the press contact us about a client, like say they're making lots of redundancies or something, and then they're much nicer to us.
What got you into PR in the first place?
Oh, that's a good question. My degree is in theology.
Of course it is.
Of course it is. And when I was at university, I was working at Vogue magazine. So I had this completely weird life where I was just studying religion the whole time and working at like the best fashion magazine in the world. And I wanted to be a journalist, and actually I realized that I wanted to be on the PR side. We had all these PR people come in all the time, and I would meet them and go, actually I want to do that job. And not go into the church, which would have been obviously the other option.
Let's take a company that is doing its own PR.
Yeah.
What are some of the common mistakes they make?
I think that they don't know the journalists well enough. I think, one of the biggest mistakes people make is to say, and when you write that article about me, and it's not a given. It's it is like, if you would like to write this about me. So I think one of the common mistakes is just thinking, and I guess the other biggest mistake is thinking that what you send in, they will absolutely print that word for word. And that's what you call an advert. And what is PR is different. And that's because the editors and the writers can, they want to do it for themselves. That's their thing.
But there's a lot of websites that will just take the press release as it is and post it with
Cut
no
and paste.
intervention.
Exactly.
So there they are getting it word for word, aren't they?
They are getting it for word. I think on the, but those websites, I think, are great because they're news outlets and you can just see them. But people people know that. They know that, it hasn't gone through the editor to see, make it a fuller story, a rounder story. So, yeah, I think, you can see what it is.
Now let's assume that it's a company that has a PR agency.
Yes.
What are some of the mistaken assumptions they make about a PR agency?
I think they probably think it's easy.
Well, it is. You're just picking up the phone and talking to people.
I think people think it's an easy role, and it's not always. It's hard.
What makes it hard?
Because lots of people are speaking to the same journalists all the time and pitching their stories. I mean, in our sort of media technology world, it's obviously a bit easier. But, if you want to get, one of the biggest mistakes that people make is thinking that they can get into Forbes and the Wall Street Journal and TechCrunch and things like that. And everyone thinks it's easy to get into those. And it's really not. They have thousands of PR people pitching stories to magazines like that.
Let's go back to our company that doesn't have an agency.
Yes.
How can they use PR more effectively?
I think people can use it more effectively by making relationships with the journalists, but it's all about being interesting. And we've spoken to various editors over the years and have said, how do you, say you get 100 press releases a day before a big trade show, for example, how do you sort that in your inbox? And it's like their first thing is it comes from a PR person or someone I like. So how do you do it effectively? You have a human relationship with people. You talk about their soccer team, you talk about their children, and you're just interested. And I think having an opinion is a really good thing.
Back to the company that has a PR agency.
Yes.
How do you use a PR agency effectively? And the opposite question I'm going to ask you is, how do you alienate your PR company?
Well, if I take the last question, I think alienate it is just by not telling them anything and being so closed and not involving them in things. I think that's when because it is all about a relationship and trust, and I think and so that's how you would alienate people, by just not making them part of your team. I think how to do it effectively is by making us a part of your team and just being very involved and knowing as much as you can, and also having relationships across the whole company. So from like the senior management down to some of the most interesting people you'll find in some of the vendor companies here are the developers and the technology people, but sometimes we don't get to meet with them, and I think that makes the relationship much stronger.
But PR people charge for their time.
We do.
And much though I'd love to involve you in every moment of my operation, I have a budget.
Yeah.
So how do I use you effectively without breaking the bank?
I think it's just about having an honest conversation and saying, this is what I want to get out of it.
So what should my goals be?
So your goals should be improve relationship with journalists, or start in a relationship with journalists, and say, one of your goals could be, I want to have 10 journalist relationships, and my holy grail is to get on Larry Jordan's Edit Smarter, or and so
that's a great objective. Thank you. Your interview will air, I'm pleased to say.
And I think it's I think goals are to meet certain journalists, to get coverage in their titles, to win an award. Awards are great. They're great for companies.
So you're saying one of the things I should do was lay out my goals of what I'd like to accomplish.
Yeah.
Have you tell me whether those goals are achievable with the budget that I've got.
Yeah.
And if it isn't achievable with the budget, you help me figure out what I can do with the money I've got.
And it takes time. These things don't happen overnight. And that, the things that happen overnight is an advert, because you can just buy the space and do it. But, these press relationships last a really long time, and it doesn't cost a fortune.
How do I measure success?
Well, we had a client recently that we got them some coverage in a particular sports title, and they had 2 phone calls from it to say, I've just read your article and I want to engage you. So, that obviously that's one way of measuring success. It's hard to measure success in PR. It really is. There's no magic behind it. If there was a magic tool to it, I'd invented it, I'd be very rich. So it's about reputation and people knowing who you are, and people coming up to you and saying, "Oh, I saw that," or "I heard you do that," or and I think it's just it. But yeah, there isn't a tool that can measure it, unfortunately.
A couple of questions on the industry.
Yes.
You have a lot of different clients.
We
What
do.
trends are you seeing? What's hot right now, and where are we going?
Look, we all come home and watch TV, or we're on the train and we watch TV. We're all watching content. There's so much content out there. I think the biggest trends that people are talking about is obviously AI and what that's going to do for the industry. I think the virtual production world is fascinating. I was listening to a talk yesterday about sports and virtual production, and how different it is watching a sports game these days. It's totally different than it was even 5 years ago. So I think that's going to be a massive thing. But yeah, we all watch content.
What do you see as signs of hope? There's a lot of signs of people being very worried, but what do you see as signs of hope?
That we all sit and watch content, and there's probably too much content sometimes. I think the signs of hope they seem to be getting back to the normal, but the new normal's different. I think it's all driven by advertising dollars at the end of the day. So, and I think the advertising world and brand world are now, I think they feel like they've now worked out how they're going to spend their money. And they've gone through a complete change in their industry, and that's obviously affected the broadcast industry. And I think now people are seeing, they've sorted themselves out. So I think it's now coming good, I guess. IBC was hugely positive. And it was it was real. I think last year at IBC everyone was a bit like, oh yeah, it was really great, but it wasn't. And I think now people are actually saying deals are being done, which is the important thing.
If you were to give advice to a person considering a PR agency or getting help with their PR, what would you tell them?
I would say to them there's a lot to do with chemistry. It is a job and it is a skill that people have. So I think to really respect people and just enjoy it as a journey, and it doesn't happen straight away. I think that's the other thing. You're not going to get in Forbes in your first week of working with an agency. So be realistic and listen to them, because we actually most of the time know what we're talking about.
Give me a one-paragraph summary of why people should consider hiring the Bubble Agency. What makes you special?
So we always say that we transform people's businesses with our knowledge and network. So it's not just about PR, but we are niche. We're in this sector, and we know people, and we can affect change, and we work with businesses and their business goals, not just their marketing goals, and we make a difference, and we do it with a smile on our face in a bubbly way.